My humble respects.
What kind of tasks do you do for Lord von Berghoff?
Rare ones, lad. His lordship spends little time at Trotsky. As the royal chamberlain, he has to be in Prague most of the time.
What does the royal chamberlain do?
I understand, lad. You're asking about his authority, eh?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know anything at all about him.
Sir Otto von Bergo is the royal chamberlain, subcamerarius in Latin. He's one of the 9 most powerful officials in the kingdom. He manages the royal towns and monasteries, approves the councillors and abbots in them, and appoints the royal judges.
Why does Sir Otto have to be in Prague so often?
Because that's the seat of the royal court, and our lord is one of the highest royal officials. Praga caput regni, young man. Prague is the heart of the kingdom. All the political threads come together there. It's where they handle administration of the country. If you want to be somebody, you have to go to Prague, or to Moravia, to that traitor Jobst of Luxembourg.
Excuse me, but why do you consider Margrave Jobst a traitor?
And what else should I call a person who only looks out for any chance to benefit himself?
But now he's fighting for King Wenceslas, isn't he?
Jobst has changed sides so often it's impossible to keep track. But, to give him credit where credit is due, unlike our king, he's a great politician. Wenceslas wasn't even able to hold on to the imperial crown that his father passed on to him before he died. Yes, indeed. One day that bloody Margrave Jobst of ours is going to make it big. He might even become the emperor himself.
Why doesn't Lord von Berghoff free our King Wenceslas from captivity in Vienna? He's powerful enough for that, isn't he?
It's politics, boy. Pure and simple.
I understand, but could you explain it a bit more for me? Why did they take our king captive? And why did the Czech lords let Sigismund spread all over the country like a plague?
That's complicated. Back during the reign of both King's father, Emperor Charles, the nobles gained great wealth and power. And when young Wenceslas came to the throne, he didn't have enough experience or courage to stand up to them. That's why he surrounded himself with faithful lower lords and entrusted them with all the royal offices.
I reckon the high nobility didn't like that, eh?
You're damn right they didn't. They conspired against the king and established their League of Lords. That started a protracted war, dragging the king's cousins, Prokop and Jobst of Luxembourg, into it. But King Wenceslas was stubborn, unyielding, and, unfortunately, also often drunk. He preferred to run away from politics to wine, women, and the hunt. It was only a matter of time before the lords conspired with his brother, the Hungarian King Sigismund. A year ago, they got together and captured Wenceslas in Prague, and Sigismund had the royal castles occupied by his allies. They secretly took the king to Vienna, where his brother is still holding him firmly under lock and key.
So von Berghoff and the others want Sigismund to be king?
Not at all. Soon they discovered they'd miscalculated, and that Sigismund wanted the whole country for himself. And now, they can't agree on what to do about it. I think that's why Lord von Berghoff received your message. He's trying to find new allies among the lower nobility.
Who are among Wenceslas's opponents?
Who do you think? All the nobles in the League of Lords, of course. The most powerful are Henry of Rosenberg, Henry of Hraditz, Boresh of Riesenberg, Bohuslav of Schwamberg, and our Sir Otto von Berghoff, too, so far.
But we serve Sahanis of Lipa and Radzig Kobyla.
Exactly. They're representatives of the lower nobility, who always stood faithfully by Wenceslas because he handed out royal positions to them.
Ah, damn politics.
On the contrary, boy. It's only thanks to politics that von Berghoff didn't send you two to the gallows straight away.
I heard some interesting books from Prague have arrived at the castle. There's one I'd like to borrow. An alchemist's cookbook. A sand-coloured cover, embossed.
Yes, several rare and astonishing books have arrived from Prague. But why are you interested in an alchemist's cookbook, of all things?
I've heard there are some interesting ideas in it. Every alchemist is in dogged pursuit of wisdom, especially those from Prague.
Perhaps you know more about that book than I do. Well, I'll have to disappoint you. Lord Nickvard Libak helped me sort the new books at the time, and the one you're looking for caught his attention. He left with it before I could even discover what it's about. All I remember is the author's initials, B.B. I'm fairly benevolent when it comes to lending books, and I appreciate Nickvard's help, but he's had it borrowed for an excessive amount of time now. I'd like to ask him to return it, but he's been avoiding me.
Why would Nickvard suddenly be avoiding you?
I have a sneaking suspicion. It seems Nickvard lost the book. I've warned him repeatedly not to carry borrowed books around with him, but to leave them in his chamber and read them there. But Nickvard is old and stubborn, and this is how things turn out.
The price of such a book must be incalculable. People like Nickvard are too dumb to understand.
But I digress. As I said, Nickvard is intentionally avoiding me. But I've made headway. I've managed to find 3 people who've spoken to him recently. Bertha the cook, Regina the maid, and Hirsch the hand.
For a nobleman, Nickvard is quite wary of his own kind, speaking only to servants.
I'm surprised that he's ever spoken to anyone but myself. Nickvard is a loner, which is also why I suspect something bad has happened. Now that he's decided to leave his shell, that is. But I'm afraid that's all I've managed to find out. Since Lord von Berkhove's arrival, I've been preoccupied with other matters.
I'll help you. I'll ask all 3 and see if they lead me to Nickvard.
Many thanks. If you aren't sure what to do, stop by and we'll discuss what you found out.
Before I go, can you tell me where I can find those people in the castle?
Who, exactly?
You said Nickvard is avoiding you. Where at the castle does he live? Are there any places he frequents?
Nickvard lives like a hermit here at Trotsky. Like a ghost. His chambers are in the Crone's tower. But God knows if he's ever slept there. He took his meals down in the Crone's kitchen. Lately, I've often seen him talking to Regina in the Knight's Hall, in the Maiden, or looking out the hall window. I caught sight of him a few times with Hirsch at the transport yard below the castle.
So I just have to hope I run into him somewhere.
Nickvard always just shows up. I've rarely ever found him on my own. I'm not surprised you can't find him anywhere, since I've been trying myself.
Where is Bertha?
Bertha cooks for us in the Crone's kitchen. She's there most days. If you can't find her there, try the first house in the lower castle, across from the door to the dungeon.
Where is Regina?
As Lord von Berkhoff's personal maid, she'll likely be somewhere in the Maiden's Palace. Perhaps in the Knight's Hall, or on the floor above it, near the Lord's chambers. She even sleeps there.
Where is Hirsch, the stable boy?
I've seen him with Hirsch at the transport yard below the castle. He sleeps in the house directly across from it. I don't know him much, though.
That's everything I needed to know.
I apologize.
Jesus Christ be praised.
I'm looking for Nickvard. The scribe told me you might know something about him.
Well, I'm waiting for Lord Libak to stop by. I brewed him another phial of medicine, but I don't even know if the last one helped. I told him to stop by for another one soon. I reckon he must be feeling better.
Nickvard needed medicine? For what?
I can't say. I promised Lord Libak his secret is safe with me, as well as his phial of medicine.
Oh, come now. Nickvard misplaced an important book somewhere. A sort of alchemist cookbook. I need to find it.
I remember the recipes by heart. And Lord Libac's secret is certainly worth more than any book.
Listen, Bertha. I truly respect your honesty. I'm in the service of a nobleman myself, and I know what's expected of us in cases like these, whether it's Nick Vard's illness or political machinations over the fate of our kingdom. Both carry equal weight when spoken about behind closed doors, I'd say. I stand by my principles in matters like that.
Lord Libac's troubles can hardly compare to what you're talking about. It's really quite a trifle in comparison.
So you'll tell me then?
Well, it's a common potion for a bellyache. Just better tasting. It helps your meals go down easier and come out slower the other end. In that regard, Lord Libac had, well, how to say it? Everything came out much too quickly.
Nick Vard didn't have time to run down the stairs, eh?
It was in the privy down below the crone, by the training ground below the guardhouse. I helped him clean his hose and made him the medicine, and I promised that I wouldn't say anything. Lord Libac is quite particular about the impression he makes on the young maids, you know. He didn't want this little episode to put them off. That's why he didn't use the privy near the maids' quarters, though it's closer to his chamber, but to the arena instead, and only when there weren't any soldiers around. But this time, it caught up with him.
Is that all?
What else is there to say? That the entire time he looked as if he'd done the worst thing in the world. It happens to the best of us, and I told him as much then. I'm just surprised he never came back for another file, I must say. He did look as if the fate of the entire castle was suddenly on his shoulders.
I don't know if this is going to do me any good.
Well, you could have found a worse clue.
Thanks anyway.
What was it I wanted? Welcome, sir. What can I do for you?
Do you know where I can find Nick Vard? The scribe said you might know.
Erazim is suddenly interested in Nick Vard and me. You don't say. But when I need him to read something for me, he never has the time. I'm sorry.
I was asking about Nick Vard.
Aye, I heard you. Say, can you read?
I can.
In that case, would you mind reading this message I have from Nick Vard?
Show me. Dear Mistress of the Chambers. What is it?
Oh, what I wouldn't give to get messages from someone else. Say, Lord Capon. Never mind. Read on. Though I reckon it interests you more than me.
Persevere. We shall soon escape the dungeon of those two women. Cursed fate, however, has placed an obstacle in my way. The heat of the Lightbringer's potion is working, and I can feel my insides being reborn. But when the last remnants of old age left my body, something else was washed away with them.
How much longer is it?
Not much. My damn clumsiness has sent all of the Lightbringer's secrets into the void, but fear not, I shall get them back. May this be the first task on the road to your liberation. That's it.
Beautiful.
True enough. Nickvard has a flair for the dramatic.
My, that's Liebach for you.
But what does it mean? Can you explain any of it to me?
Lord Liebach has taken a liking to me. I suggested to him it wasn't proper for a noble to have an affair with a maid. He thought I meant he was too old for me. But then he found what he calls the Lightbringer's potion book. He said it would light a flame in him that would burn out all that's old. So I suppose it worked. Hooray!
I know the book he's talking about, but what does he mean, into the void?
Look, can we stop talking about this? I feel a little uncomfortable here, talking about some old lovelorn nobleman.
I need help. You can give it some thought, can't you?
No! And now leave me alone.
I'm always glad to see
You have a
polite
kind
people
master,
like you.
eh, Mutt?
God be with you.
God be with you.
May God give you help, sir. Greetings, friend.
Good day to you.
I'm looking for Nickvard. The scribe told me you might know something about him.
Hey, Nick. I mean, Lord Liebach. I almost forgot about him. I suppose his task wasn't so pressing, hmm?
What task?
Nick Liebach, that is, entrusted me with a big task quite a while back. He's a castle lord. Obviously, I had to obey him. But then I heard what another castle lord was planning, von Berghoff, and I had to obey him even more. He says there's a war on. So here I am, ready to go off to battle.
I need to know more about what Nickvard asked you to do.
No. There are new rules now. You have to prove you're not a spy.
What are you blathering about?
Von Berghoff said there's a war on, right now. I told him, watch out for spies, Sir Otto. But fear not, I know how to sniff them out. You're a spy yourself, ain't you?
I'm not.
Ha! That's exactly what a spy would say. That's why you have to be vetted, to see if you're really on our side. The side that Nickvard's on, just so you know. We're all friends here. You can join us.
I'd like to.
Hold your horses. First a test.
Tell me what you want from me, then.
A sword.
Sword? What sword?
A long and very good one to help me deal with other spies. If you bring it to me, I'll know you're not an enemy spy who should fear me. Forge one, buy one, or even steal one for me. Maybe from one of the guards at the training ground or down by the gate. During the day, they're not in the towers anyway.
Steal a sword? That sounds like something a spy would do.
Not a spy who wants to help von Berghoff's most loyal servant. By servant, I mean me. See, once I get a sword, I'll fill you in on Nikvard's task.
Listen, Hirsch.
Don't try any word games on me. Persuasion, threats, I know about them spy tricks. Deeds talk louder than words. For example, like bringing me a sword.
You wanted a sword? So look at what I got for you.
That's perfect. Lovely. I don't think you're a spy. Can't say for sure, but you seem all right.
What about Nikvard, then?
Nikvard asked me to do something for him. He must have admired my devotion to Lord von Berghoff. Either way, Nick looked troubled and not very healthy. He wanted me to fetch him something he lost outside the castle, and I told him I would. At least I could check to see if anyone was sneaking around about the castle. But then Nikvard clutched his belly and ran off. So I never found out what he wanted, or from where.
That's all?
Aye. If you run into Nikvard, ask him if he still needs it or whether he found it himself. I'll be going into war soon, so I don't have time for these things, see?
I'll tell him.
At your service.
About that lost alchemy book.
Please tell me you found it.
Not yet. But I searched for Nikvard, and I have some clues.
Tell me what you've learnt, then.
It looks like Nikvard brewed some sort of potion from the book. He told Regina it would restore his youth, but the potion didn't sit well with him. He must have spent a lot of time on the privy at the training grounds below the crown. Bertha brewed a digestive potion for him, but it didn't work. When he wasn't shitting or writing notes to servants, he asked Hirsch to bring him something from beyond the castle walls. He lost something there, and then he vanished without a trace.
What do you think about it?
You said that Nikvard had a habit of carrying books everywhere with him. If that was the case with the alchemy one, it's possible it fell down the latrine while he was shitting by the training ground. And now it's lying somewhere on the cliffs beyond Trotsky.
That actually sounds quite likely to me. Let's pray he didn't use it to wipe himself. Go there and look. Perhaps you'll find the book, and Nikvard too.
Passing me by, and that the Lord will be displeased at my...
You're always welcome.
I apologize.
don't care for gossip.
Nor do I.
I'm not interested.
This is about money.
What? Go on then.
He wants to fleece us again.
Damn it. That's just what I amassed. Jews and Juno.
It's nice and so.
Oh, good doggy.
Trying to run me over, idiot.
You almost ran me over.
Die! Whoa! You must be Nick Vard, eh? Poor wretch. How many more times am I gonna have to poke around in corpses and shit for that damn cradle?
My respects.
Excuse me.
I have the book for you.
Well, I must admit, I haven't had an apprentice this handy in a long time. Zinnik has nothing on you.
I didn't even look inside.
You had a treasure like this in your hands, and you weren't even curious to have a peek? Well, I suppose it's not for everyone. I'll have a look for myself. This really is something. But why is it all covered in shit, for fuck's sake?
Let's just say the scribe didn't have it. It actually wasn't even in the castle. Under it, really.
Oh, refining saltpeter. Boil wine and alum. Grind. Ah, of course, it makes sense. I'll study the rest on the way. Well, the last chapter of our story of knowledge awaits us. The grand finale.
So what now? Do you have another job for me?
Charcoal. Sulfur from Hermes Trismegistos. Saltpeter from the carcass pit. As long as Black Bertolt didn't make any mistakes in his calculations, we have everything.
What Bertold? Oh, God damn it, Crazer. What's going on here? I'm tired of flying back and forth like a rag on a stick. I won't be led around by the nose. Will you finally tell me what's going on?
Believe it or not, all this secrecy had its reasons. But now I don't have to hide anything from you. It's time. We'll meet with the others in the lair, And there you'll learn the whole truth. You go ahead. I'm going to get a few things ready here.
All right, then. I hope you keep your word this time.
Excuse me. At your service, sir. You have a kind mind.
What'll happen now?
Our last supper, with only one but very filling course, awaits us.
Crazel, please. For once, just once, tell me what's actually going on.
And rob myself of enjoying your blissful ignorance? Not a chance. Tell me yourself, what do you think is going to happen?
Like always. You'll send me off somewhere to look for something, and you'll have a fancy speech to go with it.
He knows you now as well as we do, Miller.
I do tend to do that, true enough. But no, today things will be different. Bonnie will start today. At least I'll finally see if she understood my teachings. Bonnie?
First of all, I'd like to thank you on behalf of the whole gang for all the work you've done. We could never have finished the job without you. We found 2 new partners, you and Monarch here. It's good to have someone to rely on. So, it's time we started being honest with you, so you can finally learn the whole truth.
Not yet. Let's pull up that uppity bastard's leg a bit longer. That's the fun part.
No, Z-Neck. First of all, I'd rather like them legs of his. And secondly, I think we've put him through enough suffering. This whole time, you've been collecting ingredients and clues for us. But, so you wouldn't go nosing around, we always told you it was for something different than it actually was.
The miller here calls it tackets.
Tactics, you idiot. And everything worked out according to plan. So today we're finally close to our great success. With the help of Hermes Trismegistos and his successors, we'll finally complete the dream of all alchemists. Our magnum opus.
Exactly, Bonnie.
Magnum opus. A great work of alchemy. You're trying to make the Philosopher's Stone.
I see you've learned something after all. But no, the Philosopher's Stone isn't our goal.
Let's see then, Henry. What is it you think we're making here?
Some kind of weapon?
Well, Henry's not too far from the truth after all, don't you think? Actually, he's pretty spot on, although weapons were our last order of business. Let's start at the beginning. My father was a miller as well, but I was never much interested in the trade. Even as a young boy, I loved running around Lower Samine and investigating everything living and dead. And I had a lot of questions about everything. Then my mother, God rest her soul, decided it'd be best for me to go to study in Prague. As soon as I grew up and gained a bit of sense, I packed my bags and left.
You must have had a real good mother for her to support you like that.
I'd say she didn't have much of a choice. My father was always busy, so she was the one who had to listen to all my questions. I met a lot of remarkable people at the university, and my thirst for knowledge kept growing. But in the end, it only took a year of all that pretentious, scholarly blathering and hypocritical nonsense for me to realize I wouldn't learn anything proper there. Most of the students and masters are just a bunch of dogmatic fools. They have their own truth, and those who want to know more or ask the wrong questions fall into disfavor, as was my case.
You left your studies?
And I'm glad I did. The most important science is not subject to any religious dogma. And, of course, it's not taught at any university.
You mean alchemy?
Exactly. The art of combination and dissolution. The key to understanding the very nature of the world. There's only one queen of science. Alchemy. I returned to the mill in Lower Samine and started a new life.
So you became a miller?
In the end, I did. As you can see. From then on, alchemy became my true passion. I brought a few important books from Prague. I started with the most difficult thing. I tried to create gold.
That was pretty daring of you.
As you might expect, it didn't work. But after a few tries, I managed to create something entirely different. Once I tried mixing sulfur, charcoal, and saltpeter. I had a candle burning next to me. A gust of wind scattered the mixture, and all of a sudden, bang! I almost shit myself, I tell you. But then I realized I'd unwittingly created a miracle. Explosive black powder.
So I was right. You're making weapons.
No, it's about much more than that. We're all in on it now.
I couldn't continue my experiments on my own, but Bonnie and Zinnig did a few little jobs for me.
So he initiated us.
But we just still didn't know how to do it right and not blow ourselves up in the process.
And we used up a huge amount of saltpeter and sulfur.
By the way, the manuscript from that Hermes Trismegistos was our shopping list and price list for material from Kuttenberg.
Only we didn't know correct proportions. I looked up a few of my former fellow students and brought it up with them. And we found out that before us, some monk had already made the discovery.
Some fella called Black Bertold. And that he even started writing a book called
Feuerwerkbuch.
We couldn't believe our luck when we found out there's a copy of it right here at Trotsky.
And you know the rest.
It's a discovery that will change history. In the right hands, it can make miracles happen. All it takes is a spark, and a storm of fire will sweep away the old world order. It will wipe out stupidity and ignorance, once and for all.
And what will happen now?
As I said, we're about to have our last supper on our journey to satisfy our hunger for knowledge. A feast of smoke and fire. Black Bertold never finished his book, because he never had enough ingredients for his last great experiment. But now, thanks to you, we do. We can finally finish Bertold's work and finish his book. We'll see with our own eyes what a barrel of black powder can do. I hope you're as excited as I am.
Before we get started, there's something I want to know. This book, Feuerwerkbuch, what's written in it?
Everything you'd want to know about black powder. How to mix it in the proper ratio. How to store it. How to light it properly. And especially how to use it in warfare. Because that's the most important part, after all.
Do you really need that much saltpeter?
We do. Saltpeter makes up almost 3/4 of the mixture. Not even all the cows in the region could produce enough for us once we really get started with manufacturing.
What is it you're going to do with this powder?
During wartime, like it is now, a flammable and explosive mixture like this has more uses than you can imagine. If we had a few big barrels of the stuff, we could demolish Trotsky if we wanted to. And maybe we will.
All of us here are truly passionate about the idea of a new world. And now it's within our grasp.
What is it you studied at the university?
I was supposed to become a preacher.
That fits you. Maybe you'd even be a good preacher.
Maybe I would. Maybe I wouldn't.
God has a path prepared for each of us. And each of us here decided not to follow it.
I was supposed to be a dyer, but I was too lazy to work 6 days a week and soak my hands in lye.
I was supposed to become a nun, but I didn't want to give up the booze and fellas.
And I've already told you everything. The world is what you make it.
How did a scholar and an alchemist become a thief?
Prague is a big city, and a poor student has no chance of getting a decent place to sleep or even something to eat. Learning to shop with 5 fingers was the first requirement for survival. We're all masters of our own destiny.
I've heard enough. Now I want to see that with my own eyes.
Let's do it then. Bonnie, is everything ready?
Indeed it is. We can get started. Long live the beautiful new world.
Looks like it ain't working.
I'd say it works just fine.
This will change history.
What? I can't hear a thing. But I'd say it works just fine. Black powder? I'd never have expected that from Crazel.
Imagine, that monarch of ours is half deaf.
That dog of yours? What does that have to do with the gunpowder magazine?
Just that I was wondering that the explosions didn't bother him at all. At least he won't suffer here. And now I'm not surprised he was so unhappy with that bastard Vasarik. Hey, how did you know what we were actually doing?
I didn't exactly.
But you said weapons. How did you find out? Did we let it slip somehow?
I just guessed.
You bet on a guess. Ha ha ha! You're as hasty as that Zenek of ours. And I still owe you a nickname. I reckon I'll call you Zenek the Second then.
Well, I suppose I can't talk you out of it, eh?
Probably not. Well, at least me and Zenek played our roles perfectly.
Nice work.
Likewise, brother Powderman. Good luck on your travels.
God be with you.
You really led me on about the gunpowder magazine, didn't you? A golem made of dough, souls inside saltpeter, the secrets of light and shadow. That was all just empty talk, wasn't it?
Not exactly. It's all based on the real philosophy of the Jewish Kabbalah. I studied the writings of Bonaventura and Dietrich von Freiberg, but it was never in my interest to put their theories into practice. But they work brilliantly as a cover-up, don't you think?
I really thought you'd have a golem made from dough walking around the mill, or that I could become invisible.
Ah, but black powder is no less a miraculous creation.
So for the last time, Crazel, What now?
I'll do what I promised, and what will most likely be my fate. I'm going to gather together all the knowledge I've acquired and finish Black Berthold's book. I'll finish his opus.
Uh-huh. And what about me?
That's up to you, Henry. You're a free man. Lord Samine has no hold over you, and never did. You know, the inevitability of God's plan takes no interest in people like you and me. We'll always be little people, beneath it all.
That sounds somehow hopeful in a peculiar way, I'd say. Now I'm even happier about the great thing we've accomplished here.
The ideal conclusion, I'd say. Maybe it's time to carry sacks at a different mill. But if you're still interested in learning a bit more, drawing from the well of alchemical knowledge...
I know where to find you.
Indeed.
What's new around here?
Nothing much, lad. At least I haven't heard about anything.
I'd like to learn something new.
Well, you know how things work around here. All right. But don't forget, this will take some time. Throw in a few coins and I'll teach you whatever you want.
For instance, I'd like to know how to pry open a lock properly. Or how to go through someone's purse without being noticed.
I see. The combination of restraint and the mechanics of general acquisition of property. That seems doable. Let's get to work.
Crazel?
The fuse didn't catch immediately.
I told you there's no need to dip it in resin and wax. Better to use rushes, boiled in wine.
Very well, if you say so. We'll try rushes next time.
I'd
You're my doggy,
also like to take a look at that book, Crazel.
In due time, Bunny. In due time.
You have a kind master, hey, doggy?
You silly mutt.
Are you looking at the moon?
What the? Did I step in shit?
Silly doggy.
Oh, it's you.
I, didn't have time for a bath. But I'll go and have one now. Black powder? Well now.
You didn't expect that, eh?
We're in the middle of the forest next to a mill. Who'd have expected exploding trees?
Aye, well, never judge a firework book by its cover.
Did Crazel tell you that joke?
Corva, how do you know that? Anyways, I hope the miller gives us a bit of extra coin now things has finally worked out.
In the worst case, you can go back to licking the walls of pigsties.
But next time you'll be coming with me. Farewell, and
Why do you work for the miller?
well, how can I put it? Anywhere else they'd have kicked me out by now. The miller's the last person who'd still give me a job. He says every idiot is of some use at least.
And you see that as a compliment?
I see a coin in my hand every week. That's all I care about.
What did you do before you started working for the miller?
A bit of this, a bit of that. When I was still a boy, I stirred lye at a tannery, and then I slaved away at a dye house. But since I came to the town, it's been, well, let's say not exactly honest work. But that's what I'm best at, see?
What do you think of Crazel?
Is this some kind of test or what? I can think what I want, and I keep my opinion to myself. And you ought to do the same. Farewell.